Yeah, exactly. So this will come through and it's coming.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for coming to our last town hall of the year. We've been around the state and we're ending up here in Prattville, Alabama to do these town halls. We are pleased that you were able to join us, and for those of you that are on live Facebook, we appreciate you as well. Today, the material that we're presenting to you, we're not suggesting one over the other. What we're trying to do is, yes. And when someone needs interpretation while they're in here, I think we're good right now. Thank you, Beverly. We're just trying to give you an informed, educational information, so you can find out which one of these services will best help you be independent in your life. And as we go through the program and Kim introduces everybody, if you have a question about being said, raise your hand. I'll bring you the microphone so people on the computer can hear the question and the answers, because if we don't have the microphone, they'll hear the answer, but they don't know what question was asked. So we are pleased that you're here. I'm going to turn it over to Kim and let her begin. Thank you.
Sabrina. Are we good now? We got it. Okay. So thank y'all for being here. We appreciate your time today. This is the Region 4 meeting. The Region 4 is Montgomery and Southeast Alabama. And thank goodness we've got tech experts here with us. Alex is here with Alabama Care. You can go online to Alabama Care and see, gosh, hundreds at this point of interviews he's done with experts around the state, and they're very involved interviews. So I highly would recommend you take some time to do that and get to know the leaders and the decision makers in this field and try to extract all of the valuable information they had to give through the course of his time there. Another tech expert we have with us is Melissa Walter. She's with Safe and Home, and she's going to talk to us about remote supports today. And Melissa runs this region of the state and more. You go further above Region 4, she'll talk to you about where she works. But remote supports are the latest and greatest addition to our field as supports go. And so we're excited to get to share some of that with you as well. And we also have Mr. Byron White. And Mr. Byron White is here from the Alabama Department of Mental Health, and he's going to talk to us about the Community Waiver Program and self-direction. The Community Waiver Program is his area of expertise. It's Alabama's latest waiver, and there's a lot to learn about it, and he's going to get us all updated and informed on that. And then Elizabeth Stewart is going to be joining us online when they're done. And Elizabeth Stewart is one of our state's greatest tech gurus. So augmentative communication devices, anything like that that is tech related, smart appliances, Apple products, everything, all of the above. I like to say Elizabeth is my go-to. So if you have people that you live with or people you work with that are interested in remote supports or tech devices, then you've definitely come to the right spot. And I'm going to try to fill in all the gaps of the information that y'all need updating on in between all of that. and that is the HCBS settings rule, the compliance rule, the access rule, and how those two are related and connected. And then a little bit about guardianship reform, and then the state of the waivers in our state of Alabama, and a little bit of a preview of what's coming up with the conference. So we're glad you are here. And without further ado, I'm going to get things started. We're going to have Mr. Byron White go first. And so if y'all have questions, feel free to ask. You've got little notepads and pens in front of you. We don't want this to be as much lecture style as we do conversational, because we know we can all learn from each other. So feel free to ask a question as we go. And then we will answer everything we can. We've got a lot of resources for you on the back table that you can take with you. And if we don't know the answer to your question, we will find out and get back in touch. I've got cards on the back table. You can take one of my cards and send me an email. I'd love to have your contact info as well, so we can stay in touch and do more together throughout the year. So thank y'all so much, Mr. Byron White.
So I'm going to use a PowerPoint just to kind of keep me on track with my discussion today. I'm going to talk about the community waiver program, but a little bit about our department and the waivers that we operate, because we do actually operate 3 Medicaid waivers, the CWP being the most recent. That is a demonstration and currently available in 11 of Alabama's 67 counties. We'll move on to the next slide. And that's who I am and how you can reach me. So if you want to contact me after this discussion today, that's my email address. It's just byron.white@mh.alabama.gov. And my phone number is 334-353-7713. We work in downtown Montgomery in the region, Union Building. Currently, we are out in the regional office for about 2 months while our building is being renovated. So I'm kind of out of my home right now since really the end of July. We hope to return to central office maybe by the end of this month or early October. Right. So Medicaid waiver program, referred to as home and community-based waivers. It allows people to receive services in the least restrictive environment. We actually offer waiver services to people to keep them out of institutional settings. Our 2 legacy waivers we refer to is the ID intellectual disabilities waiver and the living at home waiver, which is a waiver that does exactly what the title says. It provides services that help people remain in the home versus a residential setting. Generally, for all of our waivers, the eligibility criteria is the same. Right now, we have a little bit of a difference in eligibility because we have recently amended the ID and LAH waivers. Those amendments were approved effective July the 1st, and it changed the IQ from 69 or below to 72, and the onset before the age of 22 versus the onset before the age of 18. So this change is currently in place in the ID and living at home waivers. This proposed change is also in the CWP amendments that have not yet been submitted to CMS for approval. So once our CWP amendments are submitted and approved, all 3 waivers will have the same requirements of the 72 and below IQ and before the age of 22. Criticality summary completed within 90 days of application. We use the inventory for client and agency planning on the ICAP. To measure that, it really measures and identifies motor skills, personal living skills, community living skills, social and communication skills, broad independence, as well as behavior. Documentation that applicant has challenges with adaptive functioning, significant limitations in the applicant's effectiveness in meeting standards of maturity, learning, personal independence, and our social responsibility that are expected for his or her age. And again, I should have changed that last statement there. Did this last night in a hurry. So if a person is interested in one of our waivers, the first step is to contact our call center. This is the starting process for applying for a DMH waiver, 800-361-4491. They will gather some initial information at the call center, and then they will refer you to your local 310 agency for additional assistance in getting placement on the statewide waiting list. Regardless of the waiver, people are enrolled in the waivers from the statewide waiting list for all three of our waivers. The CWP is our, let's call it a new waiver, even though we are about to wrap up year 3 at the end of September. It's gone by pretty quick. I remember when it was in development and it got delayed, approval got delayed many times by CMS. And I came into this role about the time that it was finally received approval from CMS in October of 2021. Sometimes I call it the complex waiver program, or complicated, because it has some different things about it that make it a little complicated sometimes, maybe a little confusing. We think it does have a lot of promise. You mentioned the settings rule, which is all about giving people access to their communities. We think generally CWP is pretty compliant with HCBS settings rule because we don't have a lot of congregate kind of services. Most of our services in CWP are community-based. You'll see a little bit further into the presentation, there's a rumor circulates that there are no residential services available in the CWP. That is not true. You can receive residential services in the CWP. Just want to make that clear if the person truly needs a residential service. So it's one waiver with 5 distinct enrollment groups to meet everyone's needs. And the goals of the CWP when it was developed is to try to enroll people earlier so they don't actually reach crisis. If you've been around for a long time, with the ID especially, typically people on the waiting list maybe have sat for a very long time and they finally gotten to the top because they're in some type of crisis. Maybe their long-term care situation with an aging parent has changed and the parent has passed away and now they're about to be homeless. So they're kind of in a crisis. So they finally get to the top and they get enrolled. With the CWP, we look at the length of time a person has been on the waiting list. So for people that's been waiting for 15 years who may never reach the top, that's a priority for the CWP, the length of time on the waiting list. We want to keep families together. So we want to try to put supports and services in place in the home so those families can remain together with supports. If a person chooses to live independent in their own apartment or setting, we want to put services in that setting as well so they can live independent in their own place, much like many of us do. We really want to help people with ID explore and find community employment. It has a real big focus on helping people get jobs. Initially, when we started making some contacts with folks on the waiting list before the actual approval, we found about 50% or better of the folks and families we spoke to did have a desire for competitive integrated employment, which was really encouraging to us because if you've seen Alabama's history, people with ID working competitively, we're near the bottom. So we can be number 1 in some things, but not for competitive employment with people with IDD. Often we're 49th or 50. So we were certainly hoping with this new waiver, with such an important focus on employment, that we would begin to see the employment numbers and percentages of people working in competitive employment increase. We do want to focus on more independence with the use of assistive technology and how people have more opportunities to self-direct their services. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Self-direction is available in all of our waivers. However, in the CWP, there are many additional services that you can self-direct that's currently not available in the ID and living at home. So with it being a demonstration, again, offering us some opportunity to try new ways to deliver Medicaid services for a period of 5 years. We chose counties in all 5 of the regions. And you'll see here in Region 1, Madison, Morgan, Limestone, Region 2, Tuscaloosa and Walker, Region 3, Mobile and Baldwin, Region 4, Montgomery, Elmore and Houston, and Region 5, Jefferson County. You'll see there are also about 46% of the individuals on the waiting list when this waiver was rolling out resided in these counties. So almost half the waiting list reside in one of these 11 demonstration counties. So this is, as I mentioned a second ago about criticality, we've replaced criticality with enrollment priority categories. And just to refresh those, it's the length of time on the waiting list, the desire to preserve existing living arrangements. So someone wants to remain in the home with the family with supports, or they want to live independently, and they want to work or live independently with family and work. Those are the priority categories for enrollment. Now, we have not forgotten about people in crisis. We still support and provide services to those folks as well, okay? This just allows us an opportunity to reach people historically that sat for a very long time and never received services. We have 5 enrollment groups. Again, this gets into the complicated part I mentioned earlier. Based on group 1 is children ages 3 to 13 with ID who live with family or other natural supports. These dollars here listed, each group has an expenditure cap. So your support coordinator or the support coordinators work with individuals to develop their budgets and arrange their services within these budget limits. Now, I don't want to get too focused on budget limits today because with the CWP amendments that I mentioned earlier, we are amending to change the expenditure caps as well. So those will be changing once the amendments are submitted and approved. Group 2 is transition age youth, ages 14 to 21, who live with family or other natural supports or live independently. Group 3, this is our largest enrollment group. These are individuals ages 22 and above with ID who live with family or other natural supports or live independently or who can live in a non-intensive supported living arrangement. And we won't get too involved in budgetations, but they live with family. The budget cap is 30. They live independent is 45. Group 4 is our residential group, community-based residential services. This is for folks who cannot live with family or live independently and need a more intensive structured living situation. In the CWP, when we say community-based residential services, that's more than just a traditional group home. That is one of the options, but we have 2 other services in group 4. One is supported living, and one is a new service to Alabama called adult family home that we've really been trying to promote and push. It compares to what you think of when you think of a foster home, where a family would invite someone in to live with them and become part of their family. That is what adult family home is in the CWP. I'm happy to say that we have finally got that service off the ground. We have currently 2 providers that are offering adult family homes, and we currently have 2 adult family homes that are up and running, one in Jefferson County, one in Madison County. We just brought a new provider into the network in Spiritus. They're from, I think, Georgia. It's where they're based, and that's pretty much the service that they're experts in is adult family homes, and they're going to focus initially on Montgomery and Elmore County. So we should see some adult family homes being available in this region in the very near future. The department also is really pushing to expand this service. We currently have an incentive for the provider agency for each new adult family home that they develop. They get a $5,000 bonus, and the homeowner, the host home, will get $2,500. So we're really trying to push that service.
Can you go back to the companies that you were talking about? that are experts in the adult family home. How big are they? What's their average operational budget? I'm asking.
I don't have the answer to that question. I will say this, our existing provider before in Spirit is RIM, and they've had several name changes. We're currently referring to them as RIM of Alabama, but I'm drawing a blank on who they were previously that you might recognize them. We don't limit, so they can develop as many homes as they can develop. We don't have enough data yet to know that. It's so new. Just know in the last 6 months, they opened up their first home in Jefferson County, and we have our first person residing in that home. And I'll give you the story of this person. It's really a very good story. I could have, done a success story today, but she was a woman, I think 60-ish. I didn't say old, I just said older. And she lived in an assisted living setting with her father. She's ID blind, and dad passed away. And her cousin, I think was her closest living relative, was all that she actually, family that she had. This cousin did not feel that she was in a position to support her. And anyway, in the end, felt she was an ideal candidate for adult family home, have any behaviors. So this first home in Jefferson County opened. The cousin individual with a homeowner, the host family, and she moved in. And it has been a very successful outcome. I mean, I've got some pictures of where the family took her to the beach. She was just part of the family, went to the family reunion. So she's very happy. The host home is very happy. So that's what we hope we see as we expand this service. The person just moves into the host home, and really, if someone outside comes in, they would just assume that's a family member. It's just part of the family. So that's, again, adult family home that we are optimistic will grow. We'll have more of those providers and settings, and then we will not necessarily prevent people from going to a traditional residential program, but if they don't need that level of support, let those individuals go to the adult family home and let that traditional residential program serve those folks who really need that level of support. Group 5 is working age adults, 22 age and older, with ID, who live with family or other natural supports, live independently. You mentioned, I mentioned in eligibility earlier, you had to have 3 deficits in adaptive functioning to be eligible. Group 5 actually was to serve people who almost met eligibility. IQ is still within the range that's necessary for eligibility, but you only required to have 1 deficit in adaptive functioning. We've only had about 3 folks since it launched enroll in Group 5. So in our amendment, I suggested to our consultant, we change the age to 18, because I think this could be a really good group for transition age youth who are transitioning out of school. I think we're missing some of those people, because if we're waiting to the age of 22, we've already missed them because they've already exited and they're possibly sitting at home. So we're thinking if we could target folks at 18 versus 22, we might be able to attract more potential folks for Group 5. And I've pretty much talked about our community-based residential programs. I will say what's different about CWP versus the ID waiver. And it's gotten some negative press probably from, I know for sure, from traditional referral sources, hospitals, DHR. They're pretty accustomed to calling us with a person saying, this person needs a residential program, and often find a setting and the person moves in. With the CWP, we have a process called Special Review Committee, where we gather all the information and review the information to really determine if the person does need that level of support, or could we put supports in that person's home or that family home, or help them get their own living situation where we can avoid moving them into a traditional group home setting. So again, it moves a little bit slower at times, but we have seen many people who would, in the ID waiver, have gone to a residential group home, now living in their own apartment with support. So, but the service is available. So I don't want people to think that you can't get residential services in the CWP, because you absolutely can. That's just a summary there of most of the services in the CWP. I will tell you this. We still have families that call and just insist on the ID waiver. If they're in one of the 11 counties, they don't want the CWP, they want the ID. And when I ask, well, what services is it in the ID that you can't get in the CWP? Generally, all the services in the ID are in the CWP, with the exception of the traditional day habilitation. We do not provide day habilitation service in the CWP. That is not an available service. However, we do provide day services. So people get out in the community and have their services community-based, but no traditional day habilitation. Other than that, any service available in the ID LAH is available in the CWP. Just some of the performance of how we're doing. We have to report this on a quarterly basis. And our last quarterly monitoring report that we submitted to CMS that ended June the 30th, 96% of the total CWP participants are currently living with family or other natural supports or an independent living situation. 54% are self-directing at least one service in the CWP. So we know we see a lot more folks in the CWP who are self-directing services. And I will tell you, as I mentioned, in IDLAH, generally personal care type services are what's available in those legacy waivers for self-direction. In the CWP, it's personal assistance, home and community. All the employment services can be self-directed. It's just quite a few more of the CWP services are available for self-direction. And as a result, we've seen a bump in the number of families and individuals who are choosing to self-direct their services. 92% of the participants with a person-centered plan are receiving services in settings that are not provider under control. 35% of the enrollees have a desire to obtain competitive integrated employment. And as of June the 30th, 21% of the people that are enrolled in the CWP are currently working and have a competitive job. We think that compares to less than 5% in the ID and LAH. So our numbers are still small. I mean, we launched in October of 21. Gross enrollments are about at 500. We have about 440 net enrollments because people pass, people change their mind, people move. So we have about 440 net enrollments currently. We do have an approval for an additional 597 slots currently, which would really boost our enrollments to 1,097 if we got all our slots filled. And we will continue to add additional attrition slots in these 11 counties as attrition occurs. I will say this, our enrollments have been slower than we anticipated and had hoped early on. There were multiple reasons for that. People been on the waiting list for 15 years, often had outdated eligibility. So when it got time to start looking at enrollment, we had to go back and get updated psychologicals, updated ICAPs, trying to establish contact with families. Those were some of the reasons. We heard a lot of staffing challenges from our 310s, that they had a lot of turnover and shortages of trying to get staff available to update eligibility. We ourselves at the Department of Mental Health, we are providing support coordination directly in 4 of the 5 regions, and we are also experiencing staffing issues. I have not reached 100% employment for all CWP positions since we launched. I'll get very close and 2 will resign or transfer to another job, and I'll hire 2 and lose 3. I'll hire 1 and lose 1. So it has been an ongoing challenge. Also, we've had some struggles with providers, not having enough providers to deliver services. And they tell us the same thing. They're also having struggles finding employees. So while if they were fully staffed, They could, deliver the services we need. When you don't have staff to provide the services, you can't accept the referrals. So staffing has been one of our, probably the biggest challenge that I think has impacted the growth of the CWP generally. I have to have the microphone, they say, though.
When 597 additional slots approved for fiscal 24, are those going to be implemented in 25?
Those are already approved. It's just where we can get them filled.
They're approved.
They're
but
approved. We've
you're
got them
working
right
on-
now.
okay,
We can get people enrolled, yes. If I
gotcha.
could identify 597 tomorrow and had the staff to support them, we could enroll.
Great. Okay, forgive my ignorance. Is there a waiting list for the CWP that's separate from the other
Same
waiting
waiting
list?
list.
Same waiting list. Okay, thank
And
you.
generally,
Thank you.
the good news is this: if we had the capacity right now to serve those 1,097, we would almost eliminate the waiting list in the 11 counties. So we're optimistic if we can ever get things to rocking and rolling and people wanting to work again and get fully staffed, that we're going to do a really good job of decreasing or essentially eliminating the waiting list in the 11 counties. And there's a lot of trickiness that goes into this because of those expenditure caps that I mentioned earlier. So slots don't convert 1-to-1. So one slot in the ID waiver that because of attrition transitions over to CWP, we might be able to serve 2 people in the CWP with that one attrition slot from the ID because of the budgeting and the expenditure caps that we have in place. So it's a little tricky formulas that we do to convert slots. I will say this again, not to get overly and too deep into the woods and weeds. We, the department, decided to provide and deliver the support coordination directly when the waiver rolled out. The goal was to bring the 310s back into the mix after the first couple of years. However, to do that, that also requires a waiver. So that is also in the pending waiver amendment with Alabama Medicaid. It's not made it to CMS yet, that the 310s in the 11 counties will come back into the mix of providing support coordination. So the plans are that DMH and the 2 310s currently in Region 2 will serve these initial 1,097, but going forward, attrition slots will go back to the 310s. We currently have 53 provider agencies offering a range of services. Our providers get free training, a lot of technical assistance. We did quite a bit of startup funding, and we still have enhanced reimbursement rates started in the first year, and those continue. The ID and LAH, because of the waiver amendments and approvals and a rate study we did, got new rates for services in the CWP. Our rates are also going to be increasing, but again, ours is held up right now. So we're providing a 30% enhancement to all of our rates. So if a service is $100, currently the provider gets $130 with a 30% enhancement rate. And so we will continue that until the CWP amendments are approved. This is just some, when I talk about, this was kind of some, just put it out there in black and white. When you look at this anchor study of kind of the America's direct support workforce crisis, why we're, experiencing what we're experiencing, you will see there what this study found, that 80% of providers are turning away new referrals. 63% are discontinuing programs and services just because they don't have workforce. 55 are considering additional service discontinuations. 92% are really struggling to achieve the quality because of their challenges with staffing. 71% of case managers are struggling to find available providers. 66% of the providers are concerned vacancy and turnover rates will increase with the end of the public health emergency. I will say this. I feel like that we are beginning to maybe turn the curve. We just released an RFP in June. We're about to add 12 new providers to the CWP. We had 14 agencies respond. So our provider network now will increase by another 12 providers in October. In this quarterly monitoring report, we also have to measure and report how many people are waiting for a service. In other words, they're enrolled, they have a person-centered plan, but because we don't have a provider agency, they're waiting for a service. That number dropped in half the last quarter. So I feel like that's a sign that we're finally maybe beginning to turn the corner on some of the challenges we've experienced because of the lack of providers, both by adding providers and maybe providers are beginning to have a little more success with finding workers. And also because of the rate study, we put some average wage requirements on providers now. So when they hire DSP, they have to demonstrate to us that their average wage for DSPs, I think it's $14 and something per hour. So that we're asking them to pay people more to hopefully get more and better qualified.
That's good. With the foster home situation you were talking about in the fourth category at CWP, which other states around the nation that, or do you know of any other states that are doing really well with that? And how does that figure into that 12 additional providers, or does it?
Yes, the 12 additional providers, and I have a provider network manager that handles all of that. I don't believe anyone in this 12 is proposing that service, but remember, we got another one, a 13th one, that's not part of the RFP, Inspiritus. That's what they do. So we anticipate they will be in all 5 regions. They're just kind of getting their feet wet in region 4. So I feel like right now they're more concerned. So I don't think the concern right now is having enough AFH providers. I think the concern right now is having enough referrals to send to AFH providers. Yes, I've got a staff meeting tomorrow, and that's on my agenda because we're beginning to hear from RIM. They've got 2 settings now, and they got 1 in 1. They got 4 available opportunities. They need referrals. Just like the same way all referrals. Person, the support coordinator, says if that's the need and make the referral. Yes. Yep. It's a new service and we've got to get people educated on it. I will say this. Because of our special review committee, many of the folks that come to us for group 4 are coming from hospitalizations, long-term hospitalizations. They have a lot of support needs and a lot of behaviors. They may not initially be ready for an adult family home. So we're thinking those people can eventually step down. So we need to start focusing on stepping down. We have a lot of people right now in the traditional group home that we could probably step down to an adult family home and make those other. So that's what we're kind of moving in that direction.
What about the 5th region in Shelby County?
So the question is, and I'll just say the question sounds like, do we plan to expand into other counties? And, you know, I'm told, I was not around in the early planning stages of CWP. I came along after a lot of the preliminary work was done. The goal is this is the waiver of the future, that it will expand into other counties, but I don't think we have any plans for expansion until the end of the demonstration, which will be September of 2026. That'll end the demonstration. We will probably then do a lot of assessing, have a huge evaluation component of this waiver. We have a consulting company that's doing the evaluation of the CWP, comparing outcomes to what we get with IDLAH. So all those things will be looked at, which will help us then make a determination of if we expand and how we expand. So there are a lot of options. There will be some options at the end of the 5 years. You know, we may say, let's box this thing up and send it back to DC. We may say, this is the best thing we've ever done in Alabama, and we're going to take this to all 67 counties. So It's kind of looked at as a pilot, trying out some new things to see how it works. And that's something I want people to remember too. While it looks like this today, because we are getting some feedback from families who are upset that traditional day house is not available. You know, there's some families and individuals that really appreciate that service. So is that something that we can look at future? So those are the kind of discussions we will have at the end of the 5 years. But right now, we're delivering the services based on what the waiver application says we can deliver. That's kind of what guides our service to there. We can't just change things without actually officially changing it in the waiver application with CMS.
A copy of the PowerPoint.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of information. Okay, I'm not gonna waste time or make y'all wait any longer. We've got Melissa Walters up next. Remote supports with Safe and Home. Can't wait.
Hi. I'm looking around the room and I do see a lot of faces that are familiar, which is a good thing. Um, but my name is Melissa Walters. I work for a company called Safe and Home. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with remote supports. But remote supports, it is one of the newer services that has been adapted by the state of Alabama. So remote supports, it really truly is person-centered. It meets an individual where they are, and then you meet them where they are and then help them progress to be more independent. It looks different for every individual. I've had a lot of people say, well, can you hand me a catalog? Can you give me, I can give you scenarios and I can give you examples of what we've successfully done so far, but we don't offer a catalog because it is so person-centered. We have over That's okay. So when I say that, we have over 90 different pieces of technology. There's so much out there, and I can do so much with one device. I can program it so many different ways to where it can help build that independence. So when I say remote supports, it truly is how you need it. It can be something like on demand. It can be daily check-in calls. It can be something just as simple as reminding an individual that, hey, look, it's time to get up. Let's get started for our day. Do you have your lunch packed? Do you have, everything that you need for the day? I also always try to include in my check-in calls to remind someone to charge their device. I'm the world's worst about remembering to charge my own cell phone. So everyone needs just little reminders and prompts throughout the day, but that's just some of the scenarios. And I even have individuals that do not verbally communicate. We have devices for that in the event that there's an emergency, they have a device on them that has step-by-step instructions with them. They press a button, they contact our remote support center. We have their complete plan. We know what they like, what they don't like. Just everything is so personalized from, like I said, daily check-in calls to, individuals who want to live alone. A lot of the misconception is remote supports is for people who live alone. I look out and I do have one individual here that we work really well with, and he doesn't live alone and he doesn't want to, and he shouldn't have to get our services. I know with the waiver language, some of it has been changed to where if you are in a day hab, you are in a group home, you are in a residential setting, you can still have remote supports on demand. You still get to choose what you want and how you want it, regardless of where you live. So that is one of the wonderful things with the HCBS that has come out. I guess the other thing that I really want to hit on is that we're not understaffed. I do cover regions 3, 4, and 5. We actually have grown quite a bit. So we are actually getting ready to hire someone in region 5. But we are not fighting those staffing challenges. I mean, we're ready. We're willing. We're ready. We want to support as many people as we can. So I think I hit the highlights, Ms. Kim.
Can you talk to us and give us examples of real life scenarios utilizing remote supports from in the home to semi-independent with people coming in sometimes all the way to completely independent? So we can get a big view, bird's eye view. And then when you're done with that, like the real life example, there's videos online at the Safe and Home website that you can go and watch the real life examples that she'll cover. But then after that, explain to our viewers online and our families the wording and how you need to get that written into a person-centered plan to receive the remote support.
I'm going to start with the wording first because that's the easiest part. So whenever someone is interested in remote supports, you tell your support coordinator reaches out to me and I come out, and if you would like it to be done virtually, I can do it virtually, but I really do like to come into your home. Like I want to see your settings. I want to see, how you live. Like I really want to be there to be able to feel and kind of help design exactly what we need to support you. So with that being said, once we do the consultation, I go back and I build a proposal, and it has the ISP language written in it. I actually write it. And the best part about that is your support coordinator can literally copy and paste it. I provide all of that information for you. I take all the legwork out, the codes, the units, all the hard, tricky part. I provide it all. They literally copy and paste it into your person-centered plan, and we go from there. It's that simple. How do we get remote supports? So how you get remote supports is you can always reach out to me directly. I'm more than happy to contact your support coordinator with you. And I say with you because I will reach out to them via email, and I will include you in that email. I never want to be directive to a support coordinator. They're very busy, I understand, but I always will reach out with you. Another way is to tell your support coordinator, hey, I want to talk to Melissa Walters. Hey, I want remote supports. It's that simple. You will literally catch me anywhere from Blount County South, any day of the week. I'm normally on the road somewhere, but you just reach out to your support coordinators, let them know I'm just interested. I just want to talk about it. Just because you're interested does not mean you have to do it. It is very simple. It's something that whenever I come in, you may say, hey, look, this isn't for me. And that's okay. I mean, I'm going to thank you for your time. And, if you have questions and things change, reach back out to me. I'm very simple to kind of talk to, and we can talk about everything together. So that's very easy. So a real life example, I have a couple of individuals that live together in a group setting, and we have partnered with their provider to do paid provider backup, which is one of the options that we do offer. Basically, I call them my paid provider backups. They're my hands-on. So we monitor remotely, and if the individual needs something hands-on, that's when the provider would step in. It's all mapped out in the person-centered plan, all of the alerts, everything is mapped out in a consultation. I do like to say that first week, it's kind of trial and error. We'll really figure out, okay, they don't need this, but they need this. So once you start remote supports, I don't want to say it's not like okay, Monday, 8 a.m. we start and everything's great. We do work together. You will see me a lot. I will pop in and pop out a lot because I do want to be involved. It's not just me that you get our whole team to come in and help back you. I mean, we come and we really do help support you. So with the paid provider backup, they have staff that go in twice a day to do medications, and then they also do meal preps to help those individuals. So the individuals, if they choose to go to day high, they go to day high. They choose to go to a day program, anything like that, they can do, whatever they normally want to do. But we mainly monitor at night and during the day for one of the individuals. That's just some of the scenarios that we can do for paid provider backup. I have one individual who lives completely independent. We do remote supports monitoring. She does have staff that come in, do community experience. She has staff to come in to help meal prep. She also has natural supports that come in. But to her, living independently is the most important thing. And with remote support, she has that peace of mind. I mean, we're there to support her when natural supports and community experience and stuff are not there. Semi-independent, I would say, trying to think of a good one that I've done recently. I would say I have another individual that semi-independent, they work. So with this individual, they work during the day. We do supports at night. They have community experience still come in. They still have DSPs come in to help assist. And in that scenario, it's wonderful. We do daily check-in calls. We do medication reminder calls. And we're just touch of the button support. If this individual ever feels frightened or just needs to talk about anything, that's what we're there for. And I think that's what a lot of times people kind of don't realize with remote supports. It's on their terms. So say you have a scheduled daily check-in call and you're just having a crummy day and you don't want to talk to anyone. You have that choice to either answer or not. I mean, it's how you want it, which I think is so important nowadays. I mean, mental health is so, so, so important and it's so looked over. But, a lot of people, they wouldn't want someone to be in their space 24/7. I wouldn't. And I try to think of things objectively like that. Would I want something like that? So, when you have staff there, I mean, that's wonderful. Utilize them. But in those gaps that you don't, definitely, at least let's talk about it. Let's entertain the idea of remote supports because it is on your terms and it is how you want it. So pay provider backup is a service that a provider and I will meet and we will kind of iron out everything as in. They will typically call me, we'll come out, we'll do a consult, and we will actually sit down with that provider and we will say, okay, these are the hours that they're needing coverage. So say you're having trouble staffing like overnight staff. I did one recently in Region 5 and it wasn't an everyday thing. It was a one Friday night through Saturday, and then the alternating week, it's just Sundays. I mean, so it's really is detailed to exactly what this individual needs. But the pay provider backup is we monitor for a set amount of hours and they're on call for that same time. So they worked with me and we dictated a whole list of alerts of what they're going to get, how they're going to get them, what we're going to do in each scenario, and how we can truly support these individuals. So the only time that they would physically go in person for us is if there's something that needs to be hands-on, which was picked out by the provider themselves and the individual. So therefore, we're supporting remotely. The provider also gets access to a weekly report. That way they can see the interactions between remote supports. They can see the sensor technology, and it truly does help with that whole compliance piece. And with those reports and stuff, the providers are able to submit that for documentation to make sure that they're compliant. But it's, us working together to fill the needs of these individuals. This particular individual did not want to leave her home when they didn't have staff. So what we were able to do was to come in and do remote supports, and then the provider did someone on call for them to be hands-on, but that individual got to choose to stay instead of having to leave when there's no staff. Did that answer? Safe in home is all one word. SAFEINHOME.com. Any other questions? Well, if y'all need me, y'all can find me around. I'll be here the whole conference. Thank you.
What is the process for changing from a legacy waiver to the CWP waiver if the legacy waiver isn't meeting the person's goals for community involvement and employment? So Initially, we were not allowing transfers from IDLAH to CWP unless there was a health and safety justification. However, as of November 2023, transfers are now permissible. So you would just need to have a conversation with your support coordinator and let the support coordinator know that you are wanting to make a transfer from your existing ID or LAH waiver to the CWP if you reside in one of the 11 counties. In trying to promote CWP, what efforts have been made to reassure families on existing waivers there won't be a decrease in supports, a loss of services entirely while trying to get started on CWP? So there should be no impact on a person's services that are who's currently enrolled in ID or LAH. Those waivers are not going away. We're just not enrolling new people into those waivers in the 11 counties. So if you're currently enrolled in an ID or LAH waiver, you should not see any change in your services as a result of CWP.
Without further ado, we're going to tune in remotely to Elizabeth Stewart. And Elizabeth Stewart works through United Ability. There she is. She just got back and won a big tennis tournament. Congratulations, Elizabeth. And she did not want to miss this opportunity. So
Yeah.
Alex is switching up her mics and we're almost there.
Can y'all hear me?
Can you still hear me, Elizabeth?
I can. Can y'all hear me?
Okay. Yes, go right ahead. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so sorry. I'm joining it from the car. We just finished our last match in our tennis tournament. And although I'd like to say thank you for saying that we won, we did not win, but we did come in second. So we'll take that. But thank y'all for letting me just come to y'all remotely and give some updates for assistive technology. And good, I'm seeing the room now to see kind of who is there. I will be at the conference tomorrow all day, so I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody in person. Kim, thanks for kind of giving that introduction. I'm Elizabeth Stewart, and I have been working over the last few years to really build capacity for assistive technology in our state. And I'm actually going to pull up my notes on my phone to make sure that I do not miss anything, because we've had a really great year of growth. I work primarily with the Accessing Potential Through Assistive Technology program, and our acronym is APT-AT. So we have, it's a federally funded program that sits underneath the ADRS umbrella, and our mission really is to just build capacity for assistive technology for people in the state of Alabama with disabilities, and to provide services and resources for service providers as well. And we have had over the last year and a half to 2 years, we have done a complete rebranding. So some of you might have known the program STAR, and that's the same program, but we have rebranded and now we are APT-AT. And I wanted to kind of talk through some of the things that we've done recently that could potentially be a good resource for you and for your communities. So the first thing I want to talk about is our lending library. So we have a lending library of assistive technology tools that are available for people to borrow for 30-day like loan periods. And we now have over 1,000 products. I think we're at 1,200 now, and they are housed in our assistive technology lab, which is in the ADRS building in Homewood, so the Voc Rehab building. And those products are housed there, but they can be checked out from anybody in the state of Alabama. They all can be found on our website, where I always laugh and say it's kind of like Amazon. You can go on, you can check them out, and then we get with you. You put them in your cart, you reserve them, and then we get with you on how to get them to you. And the goal really is to be able to put the technology into the hands of people in our state, so you can try things before you buy them, because we know that assistive technology can be super expensive, and we want to make sure that that tool fits the need of the user. And so we're really happy to be bringing really relevant products and kind of the latest and greatest, while also having, some of those tried and true tools as well available. We are expanding that library. Over the next few months, we have 4 demo centers that are opening in other areas of our state, because we know that Birmingham, although central, we want tools available in every area in Alabama. So we have a demo center that will be opening, or really has already started getting their products at UCP Huntsville. We have products that will be housed at Faulkner University and the OTPT program with Alan over there at Faulkner and their new facility that's fabulous. The University of Alabama has a lab that will be opening in the instructional technology department under the College of Education. They are going to be a demo center. And then we also have equipment that will be housed at the Independent Living Center in Mobile. So we're really excited to continue to expand. So no matter where you live in the state, you can have access to those resources. A few other things that we've been working on are really being able to get out and do trainings and work with folks around the state. One thing that we've done this summer is our rural road shows. That's hard to say. It's kind of a tongue twister. But we have had a variety of areas. Coleman, gosh, I can't remember the next one that we're having, but we're trying to really hit a lot of different areas. And one of our employees, Jessica, who works in the lab and with AppDAT, she has been taking products around and she sets them up in the area, and then people can come by and check those tools out for the 30 days. So we're really that's been really fun to be able to kind of take the show on the road. We also have a Maker's Day coming up, a toy drive that we're doing with United Ability and their SLPs there, where we are going to be adapting toys for people to. That's in November, I think. I don't want to give you a wrong date, but I will be there this week, so I'll make sure that y'all have that updated date. But it's in November, so a cool opportunity for people to learn how to adapt toys. And then our main event for the year that's coming up October 1st and 2nd is AT Alabama. And so this is our second year to house an assistive technology conference. And this conference is presented by United Ability, AppDAT, and the Alabama Department of Mental Health. And we are just really excited last year was our first year, and we have, I think, doubled in size this year. And we have the venue is the Doubletree in Birmingham off 280. It's the Doubletree Perimeter Park. And it is a 2-day conference with a pre-conference that will be held at United Ability. And that is a Maker's Day as well. So we'd love for y'all to join. Ashley McElroy, our director at AppDAT, will be leading that with Jessica and some other staff members with the program. So we only have 25 slots for that. So registration is open and it is filling up. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you. In our full conference, we will have 32 sessions, 1-hour sessions that are all assistive technology related. We have 5 track topics. So we have education, communication, physical access and recreation, transition and workplace, and what am I missing? Let's see. Independent living and healthcare. So we really have expanded to touch across disciplines and also across the lifespan. So we're expecting around 250 people, and so we're really excited to bring that conference to Alabama in October, and we'd love for y'all to join. We will have an exhibit hall on day 2. And we are anticipating around 50 vendors. So all assistive technology related or resources that can support your assistive technology needs. So yeah, so I would love for y'all to come by our booth and get flyers for that as well, so you don't miss out on registration for that. I'd love to open it up for questions. I know that's a lot of information. I'm not really sure the format or the layout here, but I think I saw Melissa answering some questions at the end. So yeah, so I'd love to just kind of answer anything that y'all are wanting to know more about. I can't hear y'all if y'all are saying anything.
I did agree with the program. My question is, what, where is the lending library located? And is a book free or do you purchase?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the tools are housed right now mostly in our Homewood, the Voc Rehab building at the bottom of that building in Homewood for ADRS. It's in the we have an assistive technology lab down there that houses the equipment, but anybody from around the state can check stuff out, and we will make sure that we get it to you. So we can either ship or send it through different ADRS locations. And it is free. It's completely free. All of our services are. And those tools are checked out at no charge for at least 30 days while you're trialing that. And they can be used really for trials for yourself, or if you are working with a client that you might that you want to try a variety of tools, you can check out multiple things. So we want that to be a good resource for people to use for demonstrations and trial purposes as well.
So it's like Amazon. So it's like so like Amazon, you purchase books, but you gotta do a trial, right?
Yes. So it is. These are strictly for trial purposes. We do not sell them after the fact, so they do have to be returned, and then we can't sell them, if it works out or if it is a successful, demonstration. But we do have a way to, point people in the direction of purchasing, whether through insurance or connecting with the powers that be in the state that might be able to, do that evaluation or help with, purchasing. So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for the question.
I have some questions.
Great.
Can you hear me, Elizabeth?
I can.
Okay. So my first question is, what's your most, can you hear me?
Oh, wait, you cut out a little bit, Kim.
Okay. My first question is, what's your most popular product that y'all see getting asked for the most? And then what is your least known, but probably best kept secret kind of a product? And then on top of that, a wraparound question to that would be, so if we find something and we like something and we want to purchase something, who comes with y'all or behind y'all, or does anybody come with you or behind you to help train the people who are supporting the person who's using the tech?
Yeah, so those are great questions. So I would say, so let me start with the most popular. So right now we have seen a lot of our feeding tools being checked out. So we have an OB feeding robot. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. And that it does stay in our different demo centers, but can be tried or, for trial purposes for folks in the state. But then also we have a variety of feeding tools that can be checked out. So that's always popular. We also have one of our probably things that people might not know that we have are adaptive gaming tools. So we have an Xbox, we have a PlayStation, we have all of the adapted switches that can be used to adapt the game controllers for people that are into gaming, to make sure that everybody has access to that. So that's something really cool that we have that people don't know we have. And we did just get a new robot arm, and I'm blanking on the brand. I'll look it up in just a second, but we got a really new cool robot arm that is awesome, that can pick things up. And we trialed it last week or a couple weeks ago, actually. So it's a really neat tool that we have. So we have tried to keep the latest technology that's coming out in the library, because sometimes it's hard to have access to that stuff just because it is new and it can be pricey. So yeah. And then when it comes to training, that can oftentimes be a real barrier for people when they get an assistive technology tool, to make sure that everybody that's supporting the user is knowledgeable enough. So we can provide supports to make sure that people are trained. One thing that we cannot do though through our program is help with the financial piece of that, but we do have a lot of resources that we can point you towards. Some that some, some of the organizations that are doing assistive technology, funding or like helping with grants, for people in our state, the Hank Poor Foundation, Libby's Friends, a lot of those options, along with being able to, if it's a communication need, go through a speech pathologist or a professional, a therapist in the area for other tools that you can get through insurance, so durable medical equipment. So we can definitely connect you for the funding side of it, but then training side of it, we can definitely support that and make sure that you have that knowledge to support your users. Did y'all know we have adaptive gaming equipment? Is that of interest to anybody?
Yeah, I see some eyes light up.
Cool. We also have, which I don't know if y'all know Hank Poor. I just talked about the Hank Poor Foundation, but he works in our office also, and we have a bunch of adaptive cleaning tools like the Roomba that can be accessed through his device and everything. And so we're always trying to get him to clean the office, but he somehow always gets out of that. So
Can you direct us to your website?
yes, let me make sure I say it right. So let's see here. Hold on. Just a second. Okay, so the Alabama AT for all is AL.AT4, like the number 4, all ALL.com. Kim, are you able to type that in the chat for me?
I think Alex just did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And so you can go and browse through the equipment that we have by going to that website. And like we talked about, if you want to check something out, you just pop it in your cart and then check out, and it sends us a notification, and we'll make sure to get with you and get you that equipment.
Awesome. Any more questions? Okay.
Yeah, and so we'll have a table.
One more.
Oh, okay.
How much do you get all the games?
We have some, but we need people to come give us recommendations of games and come trial the equipment. So, and tell me your name.
Eric Brown.
Eric,
ERDDH.
okay, Eric, do you like gaming? Because we need somebody to come in and help test it, because we're not up on all the latest games. So we're looking for folks to come in and trial and also tell us what games to purchase.
So do you purchase on an Xbox, a Switch, or what are there other old games?
Yeah, all 3 of those. We have the Switch, the Xbox, and the PlayStation.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Any other
Okay.
questions?
I think we're good. Thank you so much, Tom.
Yes, and I'll have a booth set up tomorrow with some of our tools, but also information about some of the things we talked about. So stop by and say hello.
Absolutely. Take care, Elizabeth.
Okay, thanks, y'all.
Go hydrate.
Yeah, see y'all tomorrow.
Okay. So we're going to move over to a short video on self-direction and how it's being utilized across the different waivers. And Alex is going to play that on the screen. If you have any questions about how self-direction works or can work, feel free to ask. And then we're going to wrap things up with a little bit of an overview of the rest of the information I talked about at the beginning. So Alabama Care put this video together for us last year, and it's just a good general way to share information from people who are already using self-direction on their paid support services and how it's working for them. It's just a highlight. There's lots of other ways. There's lots of different methods, but this gives you a good idea, big picture. Okay, do we have any questions on self-direction? Anybody here already using self-direction? Just a preview or an overview of what it's all about. If something you think you're interested in or somebody you know might be interested in it, please come see us after the meeting because we can help you kind of adapt your services that way. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the home and community-based waiver settings. Does anybody know why we have that? Why that's a thing now? Why it started? What was the reasoning behind it? Home and community-based settings. So previously, 50 plus years ago, if you had a diagnosis or some kind of a disability that required extensive support or paid supports, you likely would have been referred to a place in the community that would have been isolated and or segregated. And you would have had people coming to you and you would not have been able to necessarily access the community at your will, how you wanted, if at all. And so we watched the lives or the outcomes of people with intellectual or developmental disabilities kind of spiral downward because of that isolation and that segregation. And that led the Centers for Medicaid Services, Health and Human Services, all of these federal government partners to discuss and explore why this was happening. And we came to realize it's because we are limiting people's exposure to their community members and sometimes even their families. And that's never good. We were built to be relational beings. That's how we were created. God wants us to be around other people. It's very unhealthy to be isolated. And so basically the bottom line of home and community-based settings is to gain access to a community so that you can start to develop those relationships in a really healthy way. Home and community-based settings is now a rule, a standard that all providers in our state are expected to be compliant to. And right now, as of this point in time. So there's a list. You can go on the ADMH website and look up home and community-based settings. There's a list of all of those compliancy standards to make sure that your provider is meeting the expectations involved with access to the community, independent rights. A lot of those are just basic human or civil rights and things that go along with what our expectations would be if we lived in the community. What would we want our lives to look like? What would we want to do? Because we should have the same set of expectations for the people that we serve. Does that make sense? Any questions about home and community? That was a very watered down, very quick version of home and community-based settings rule. There's a lot to it. All right. I'm going to move on. The community waiver program, that's what Byron talked about. That's what you have in front of you. It is like a pilot phase waiver. We've got 2 more years on it. And so we're hoping to gather enough information to decide which direction to take it at the end of those 5 years. And we're seeing some really good information and feedback come back. We're seeing some things we might want to tweak and change. But the counties that are listed at the bottom are the counties that waiver is provided in. Whether or not they expand, you heard Byron say, remains to be seen. But those 11 counties are the ones that are accepting people on the community waiver program. All right. The last part of this meeting that I want to cover is the DD network. I want to make sure, can you take one and pass it down? I want to make sure everybody understands who our DD network is and why they're here. And this waiver is, this handout, this resource is a comparison chart of the waiver and all of their services. You can look at the front and back and see what services are provided on which waiver. So you can kind of contrast and compare. That's a really good resource, and it was given to us by one of our DD network partners. So the DD Act happened in the 70s, and that act said in every state in our nation, there must be some partners who are there to back the families that have people that need supports and to back the people who need those supports. By backing, I mean partnering with, and that is in our state, our DD network partners are ADAP, which is the Alabama Disability Advocacy Program. They're located in Tuscaloosa, but they operate statewide. And then the other one is the UCED, University Centers on Excellence for Developmental Disabilities. They are located at UAB, but they also operate statewide. And then the last one is our Alabama Council on Developmental Disabilities. And they are located in Montgomery, but operate statewide. Now, what do each of those do? ADAP provides information like the piece of paper you're looking at, but it gives you the legal arm of partnership when you have legal issues come up, whether or not you need representation from your civil rights being violated, help with accommodations, access to different waiver services, things of that nature. When they become legal, then you would turn to your DD network partner, ADAP, to advocate that way. And then the other partner that I mentioned, UCED, they provide education and research for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, especially as it's related to someone's health or medical needs. So since they're operating out of UAB, what you want to do when you have questions related to the latest research, the latest education, what trials are happening, where can we get information on this new diagnosis, you would go to UCED. They would partner with you in that journey that way. All right. And then the last and not least is our Alabama Council for Developmental Disabilities. What do? They do a lot, but they literally partner with agencies around the state to provide grant funding for different projects that affect the outcomes for all the work the other institutions in the state are doing, like ADMH, like the provider network. And so their grant funding and their projects, including PIPA, Partners in Policymaking, is a huge contribution to the families in our state to make some forward progress with things that we need to do and directions we need to go. So you've got the funding, you've got the education, the research, and then you've got the legal back. So if you'll keep those three partners in mind, that's who you can turn to. That's who you can go to when you find that you need support on this journey to supporting your child or your loved one or for yourself. All right. Questions on our DD network? All right. Last and not least. Oh, you're back. Okay, good. Does anybody know who this guy is? This is Colby. Colby had a law passed last year in 2023 called the Colby Act. The Colby Act was part of the guardianship reform that's happening around the nation. A lot of people are recognizing that when you become someone's guardian and then you pass away, that person may or may not have another guardian to step up. But even if they did, if they had grown to the point where they don't necessarily need a guardian anymore, it becomes really hard, sometimes almost impossible, to reverse that guardianship. And so in the process of doing so, a lot of people don't realize how many rights had been removed by saying this person needs a guardian. And so when they try to go out and access the community, they're finding there's a lot of challenges and barriers that are there because they have already said they can't do this, they can't do that, because they have to have somebody sign for them. They are a ward of a guardian. And so the idea behind guardianship reform is to prevent those kind of scenarios and still provide support in a way that is needed and beneficial. That's what supportive decision-making is all about. And so if you think about the spectrum of protective policies, when you think about protective policies in general, you've got things that are on a very restrictive end, like guardianship. They restrict a lot of the rights, and you've got to have a signature for everything when you make decisions. And it's almost like having someone speak for you. That's a more restrictive form of a protective policy. If you go to the other end of that spectrum, then you would have something like support a team agreement for supported decision making, where Colby and his team agreement, he remains the person who gets to say yes or no, the person who makes the decision, the person who can sign on the line and accept something or reject something. Colby remains in control. He's the driver of his life. He's the one on the journey. So he gets to make all the decisions, but he has named supporters in a team agreement, which has become legally recognized in the state of Alabama as an alternative to guardianship. And so it's a wonderful thing when you can go alongside somebody and support them at the same time as not removing their rights. And so we're really proud of Colby for doing that for us. And all the people that helped you do it. So in between all of that, with guardianship reform, you've got a lot of other things in place. You've got power of attorney. You've got the medical directives. So you've got the HIPAA release. That's a very small example, but you can sign a HIPAA release. Those types of protections are in place, and they're kind of in the middle of that spectrum. So when you're thinking about long-term examples, number one, understand that guardianship reform is a movement that's happening across the nation. And we're trying to update a lot of things that were in our laws that, quite frankly, need to be updated because they're outdated. But we're also trying to restore a lot of the rights and privileges that have been removed in that movement. So we're excited about that. If you want to look more into the Colby Act, or you know somebody that might need a team of supporters, lawyers don't have to get involved. That's probably one of the best things about the Colby Act. You're not paying thousands of dollars to a lawyer to get something done. You can actually have somebody notarize it, get the signatures from the team, and you're done. So I don't know if you've ever notarized anything before, but you're talking $60 or less, sometimes even free. So look into that. Outside of guardianship reform, home and community-based services, we've got self-direction covered, the DD network covered. Any other, did I miss anything? Any other questions? Ryan? I'll bring you down.
What about ADRS?
What about ADRS? Thank you. That should be mentioned. So what is ADRS? Ryan, do you want to cover first of all, tell us who you are and who you work with, and then tell us what, in your words, what is ADRS?
It's Alabama Department of Rehab Services. ADRS is help people find jobs, support employment. And workforce, you get different partnership with the ARC, with ETC, ADRS, there was a partnership with ADRS. ADRS helped me to find my job, what I'm looking for.
So does ADRS work around the whole state?
They do. They go around the whole state.
So if somebody wanted help finding employment, or with maybe independent living or children's rehab services with therapy and stuff like that, how would they find somebody at ADRS to help them with? Do they go online? Do they make a phone call? How does that work?
There is a couple of ways. You can go on the website. There is phone number. You go and look what county you go to, what you live. There is a phone number you call to get the services.
Can people come and talk to you about this after the meeting?
What if they have questions?
How would you be able to help them? What's your job? What do you do?
um, tell them the right step, who they need to talk to, who's supervisor, different area for ADRS.
Do you work with ADRS?
I help out.
Yes. You're there all the time. And you know one of the keynote speakers with ADRS at our conference.
Yes.
What's her name?
Jane Elizabeth Shaw.
Jane Elizabeth Burdishaw. She will be here this afternoon, or not this afternoon, Tuesday. All right. So ADRS has Children's Rehab Services, which is CRS. You might know it that way. They do a lot of help and support in the healthcare field. They have VR, which is like what Ryan was talking about. VR is not just for employment. They help people learn how to drive. There's all kinds of different things, independent living, accommodations, all kinds of different things VR can help you do. But ADRS works in or is housed in Montgomery, but they work with people throughout the state. And that's a huge partner in this journey as well. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, I think we're finished. Questions? We're good. Okay, thank you much.
Just a few things and we'll wrapping up the town hall. If you go away today back to your hotel room or back home and you start thinking about some of the information that was given to you today and you say, I don't remember what they said, or you can't read your own writing like me on your notes. You can reach back out to Byron at Alabama Department of Mental Health, Melissa at Safe and Home, me or Kim at the Arc of Alabama, and we'll be glad to re-answer those questions. I hope you leave here with more information and better knowledge of when you came in. Now, as far as the conference goes, registration in about 15, 20 minutes upstairs will be open. You can go and register for the conference, get your goodie bags and all the information to start the conference. Later today at 5 o'clock in this same room is our Arc of Alabama board meeting. You're welcome to come and sit in on that. It's our annual membership meeting. And then at 6 o'clock upstairs in the big salon rooms will be our opening reception. We invite you all to come. There'll be food and drinks and live music for you to enjoy and kick off the conference with a good little festival there, like a tailgate game party thing. We thank you for coming. Be safe in your travels if you're going home, and hope you stick around for the conference. Thank you very much.